shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on this excellent, wonderful Wednesday's edition of Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. We'll start off a focus on education. We're speaking to Robert Lynch over at ICCI. 1 p.m. We'll continue our discussion, this time focusing on scholarships and get an update from the Scholarships Secretariat Manager, Dr. Shari Smith. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today. Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And as you heard Ms. Susan remind us, the roads are wet. So when she was doing the traffic report, and if you're out and about, hey, just be a little bit more cautious, considerate, and extra careful because it is really, really wet out there. We don't want anything to happen to any of you, so be careful. Well, join us as we focus on education. And we welcome from ICCI, Mr. Robert Lynch. My good friend, good afternoon. How are you?
I am good, man. Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you doing today?
Man, stand thankful, but highly, highly favored. Trust and pray that we're all doing well and come to our senses and move forward in unison to make this place, a wonderful, blessed, safe, productive, prosperous, stable, secure society, man, that we can all move around freely and enjoying the bounty from on high. So it's a good day. It is a good day.
As you keep persons safe on the roads by telling them to stay safe and stay away from the wet and shining that light on education, I must say, I just really appreciate what you do, especially during these dark times, and allowing us the platform to continue to share with the people of the Cayman Islands about education and how education can help us towards that end that you just mentioned. So thank you very much.
It's an honor, man, to be able to partner with people, whether the parents, pupils, or principals, as well as the LE. We are committed to education. It is that thing that not just empowers and equalizes, but it gives all of us, a semblance of validation in our own minds. It's knowledge and it makes you feel good, but it can only really, really be enjoyed when it's shared. So I am gonna, be very, very mindful that we have so much opportunities here, so let's do it. All right, man. But when we look at Cayman, sometimes some of us we see that there's so much good, so much opportunity, but yet there are many of us who keep thinking, "Oh man, there isn't enough, so let's make it better." Well, we know that ICCI way back when it was more than a radio station, and for us now, we're recognizing over the years since government's recognition of its educational process. There are many people, even if we only focus on those in the civil service, who've used it as a platform. It's another avenue Mr. Lynch, very appreciative of you guiding us in this discussion. So we celebrate education at that tertiary level. I know that it used to offer up for some who needed, in the U.S. perspective anyway, some sort of high school
Yes,
sort of certification, and it offered the GED.
yes,
So
yes,
I
yes.
had a
So
question
we
to
have
ask of you.
a
Yeah.
lot of things to share with you today, and I just want to share with you right away that this year, coming September, will be the 50th year that ICCI has been in operation and providing educational support to the people of the Cayman Islands. And this was born out of that spirit that you mentioned, the spirit of community service. Private citizens got together and said, you know what, we want to create opportunities here on island for the people of the Cayman Islands. No longer do we need to go off to England or go off to the U.S. just so that we can qualify ourselves for the jobs that are here. We can provide you that education. And this now, it has been 50 years since we've been doing that, and we're just so excited to be able to share with you today some of the things that we've put in place to help students to get there right off the bat. I mean, access to education has been our mantra for such a long time, and providing access to that associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree through the GED program, which we're actually launching this summer in partnership, or that we've been doing, but we're actually launching a partnership with Work Cayman. So persons who may not even have the small access to funding that they need to be able to get that leg up to move forward, they might be stuck in a job, or for some reason they didn't finish high school and they've been stuck at a particular place. Through partnering
Mhm.
with Work, they can sign up for the GE program, do the four subjects: math, English, science, and social studies. Get their high school qualification or their high school diploma, and then they're able to move into that associate's degree, move into that bachelor's degree, which we offer right here on the spot. And we also offer the testing for the subjects right there too. I mean, we know things are a little bit crazy right now with offices being open and not what but and whatnot. But as soon as the office is open, we are ready to provide students with those testing options, and that's just one of the things that we're wanting to share. The GED program, so many persons have benefited from it so far. They've come up. We have the live classes, which just brings me to our live classes. We're still having classes. We're not at our location proper, but we are providing live classes through Zoom and our learning management platform, Populi, which I'd love to tell you a little bit more about later.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Excited about it. And
Yes.
I was earlier just reviewing, some notes from way back when. Um, it's amazing when you clean up your desk, you come across something that you intend to revisit at some point, and it could be days or weeks later. Sometimes, sadly, it could be years later that note got clipped to something on the corner of your desk, depending on how we have our desk organized. I still like mine to be, less digital and more, tactile, where you got little things, literally, written on corners of paper stuck to certain aspects. It's good reminders, right?
Scratch here and scratch
And
there.
yeah, man, yeah, man. It's amazing, It isn't that you're not sensitive to environmental considerations, but it's the notion that I think too many of us become disconnected. And I'm reminded of that simply from what you said. You haven't, live classes. Remember when the idea of MOOCs was it MO? CC, right? These things that even though the acronym itself
Yes.
made a few of us, raise eyebrows, right? Well, we've come full circle, haven't we?
There you go. And now, I mean, you thought only one or two people might have gone into online learning. Now the entire world has had to shift to online learning. But this didn't catch us by surprise. This has been something that we've been rolling out for the past 2 years and testing. We've been testing what we called or coined at the time to be our hybrid classes. And what that
Mhm.
looked like was persons were able to come to class, just like the regular thing, be able to sit in the classroom and interact with other students. But because we understood the nature that some persons were working and finding that drive from Georgetown up to Newlands might have been a challenge, so we instituted our hybrid where persons could join that live class through a remote. We set up cameras in the classroom so teachers were able to interact with the students live. Students were able to interact with other students. Now, when COVID-19 came about, we just rolled that program out, and all students just went online with the same interactivity. So it was a smooth transition for us, and I mean, we just had our last or ended our last term with our student satisfaction survey, and we had a 97% satisfaction rate on our program, and persons are just so excited at the fact that we were able to implement this so easily and provide some additional support that students were having difficulties with. For instance, we understood that persons were isolated in their homes. Persons may be at home alone because now they're locked in and they live alone. Or persons might have been living in homes with maybe 5 persons, but they still felt isolated. So one of the things that we quickly implemented was our weekly call-in support program, where staff members and faculty would just call on students and not just talk about grades and homework and those kinds of things, but talk about what's going on in our lives. Just have that conversation, build relationships, because isolation can be a difficult thing. Isolate when you're stuck in. It's been about 6 months now. When you're stuck at home for 6 months, and you can only go out on your named days and go shopping, and you have to wear a mask, and you can't shake hands, you can't hug, you can't go to church, you can't have that interactivity anymore. Just being able to have that free conversation where you can really tell someone what is really going on inside and feel safe. That's something that we thought was important to our students.
Yeah, man. And it's something that maybe we can engage in discussion. I mean, you couldn't go to church to get the spirit, but you can still find it at the bar, So it's I see that not. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's not to be not just in jest. It's the notion that you shared that as social beings we're designed for fellowship. You can term it how you want, but it's that engagement and interaction. And I look at it as education from the perspective that on a personal level, it took me a very long time to appreciate. All of my friends who are educators, they would stress, listen, that playtime, that's learning, that's important. And that has taken me up until probably just very recently to value that, to appreciate it. If the child wasn't doing something productive by my sort of own, assessment, then they were wasting time, out there playing. They can do that another time. But that's learning. That's important. I
Exactly.
share that to ask.
Yes.
Maybe after the break, I'll ask you now, and we'll get into the discussion. And I want you to share with us because I want people to appreciate that there's much here, and as much as I, on a personal level, understand from the perspective that look at our seafarers, they went away and they got an education as much as they earned and contributed to our country and to the value to, of the organizations in which they work. But I wanted people to see the educational opportunities here, as many have come, but equally to see the importance of interacting. So I want to ask the student profile. We know initially ICCI was looking to cater into that quote unquote more mature student. And now with the learning paradigm being shifted the way it has to this online virtual technology sort of base, delivery modalities. Are you seeing in the short time a change either in the student profile or how the uptake has been and how receptive? I know you said a 97% sort of approval, so maybe we can talk about that. Please share more with us of some of the other things that are transpiring so that we can appreciate what's happening. Mr. Lynch, would that be fine?
Absolutely.
All right. Perfect. Hey, to our listeners, when we come back, Robert Lynch at ICCI will continue with us. 1 p.m. after the headline news, Dr. Shari Smith, the manager of the Scholarship Secretariat, will give us an update on the government scholarships. A lot of us need to hear more, so please stay tuned. We'll talk today.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go.
Puritan Cleaners is pleased to announce the change in its opening and closing hours for all its locations. Savannah Countryside, 946-1884, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mondays to Saturdays. Elgin Avenue location, 949-2452, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mondays to Saturdays. You may call our seamstress, Miss Kathy, at Elgin Avenue to discuss your repairs and adjustments and more. Our main store at 337 Eastern Avenue will be opened from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mondays to Saturdays. Phone 949-7104. These hours will remain in place until further notice. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good. Green Turtle. Modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
The Economics and Statistics Office are currently conducting the annual business surveys. The surveys seek to measure the performance of all local industries. Survey forms for this year are mailed or emailed to all entities operating in the Cayman Islands. The business surveys are confidential under the Statistics Law and are exempt from the Freedom of Information Law. Your response matters. Do your part. Fill out and return your survey forms to the Economics and Statistics Office. For assistance in filling out the forms or for more information, visit eso.ky or call 525-8565 or 325-6652.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Talk today.
But I do have to.
Island's foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Very, very grateful to Miss Susan. You're always faithful, always there doing an excellent job. So, public thanks. We have a wonderful team here over at Radio Cayman. Well, join us from ICCA and Mr. Robert Lynch as we focus on education. And Mr. Lynch, as you were sharing, I had to agree. That drive to Newland sometimes, for some of us, man, that seems like so long, but yet there are people who would tell us that, they would walk backwards, barefoot, uphill in both directions to get an education. And yet, in air-conditioned comforts with good roads, a 30 or 50-minute drive, and it's far. So, perspective.
It can be. There you go. And it's an interesting perspective, but because we understand that people are going through different things in their life, they might be working very hard, long days, and they're leaving work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and traffic might be there, so they might get stuck in traffic, and after going through a long day, that may not necessarily be the thing that is highest on your list to try to sit through traffic. So we provided this option so persons can, rather than trying to rush from work to school, they can take that half an hour, decompress, maybe have some water, relax a little bit, spend some time on the beach, and then even on the beach with their Wi-Fi connection, they can connect to the classroom. So you get a chance to make that transition. Again, talking about that mental health, that self-care, just being able to, even though we're trying to progress, we're trying to move forward, we still want to make sure that when we are moving forward, we're still taking care of ourselves. So whatever we can do to take care of ourselves, that's what we're looking to do. And as I mentioned to you, we're helping our students to just find mental peace, find mental health as they go through. I wanted to touch on the question that you asked me about the age. We have seen an uptick in the younger students, actually ages 19 to 20. They're coming out and getting more involved. But interestingly enough, we've also seen an uptick in the age 26 to 35, persons who might have been in a job, or they might, because of COVID-19, they've been laid off. They've been, what do you call this? They have reduced hours. Furloughed. We have all of these interesting terms, and all it means is that we have less money to spend. But persons are seeing this and taking the opportunity and going, you know what, how do I COVID-proof myself? How do I make myself a little bit more marketable so if this happens again, if something like this happens again, I don't find myself where I'm just first on the list to get furloughed. So persons are going after that master's degree, going after that bachelor's degree, looking to up-qualify to find that associate's degree. So it makes that transition to online learning or online virtual offices a little bit easier. Some jobs, they're face to face, they're tactile, they're touch, so they don't transition as well. But many of the jobs that do require the associate's, the bachelor's, master's degree, they are able to do that. For instance, us at the college, we were all able to make that transition. We were all able to take our phones home. We were all able to take our computers home and just continue running the college from our homes. Our extensions each ring at our virtual homes. Well, not our virtual homes, our real homes, where our virtual office now exists.
Yeah, man. I know what you mean.
Are still able to reach out to us.
And that's the thing, I think that we heard the adage over and over. Perhaps it never resonated with us that necessity is the mother of invention, and in this time of learning and having to work physically in a different environment, performing at the senior level, if not higher, we saw that something as simple as one computer or two computers in the house weren't enough, or the computers that we had, they weren't powerful enough, they weren't appropriate. Maybe we needed, instead of a desktop, if people still have those, like I do, we needed something that we could physically move and have other sort of mobility features to it. If I could ask you though, from the perspective of teaching and learning, and I know years ago I was just trying to look back to see how long one of your alumni is one of our colleagues, Miss Anita. She had over the years been sort of championing what she saw as a gifting from ICCI from that perspective. You're talking about the hybrid classes. In addition to the learning and the live classes, we have got a quick question, and I just want to rephrase it. I reached out to the person who doing the break, sent the message back to him, and just rephrase the question. In addition to that, do you have your classes recorded in some format and uploaded somewhere where the student, for whatever reason, may have been absent, may have missed notes, maybe just want to review, the I call it the lecture. I'm not sure what people call it these days, but is that available, or how does that work?
And I'm glad that your listener raised that question. So our delivery modes, our delivery has three modes. We mentioned the face-to-face in class, and we mentioned the hybrid, so they're able to connect live. But each class is recorded and stored on our learning management system platform, where students are able to go back, watch the lessons, submit all their work. Everything that a student does is done through the learning management platform. So gone are the days when you need to run up to the college and try to get there before 5 o'clock so that you can hand the paper in. You just before 11:59 in the night in your pajamas, you submit your homework online. It is there with the exact timestamp of when it was delivered. So no more lost homework, no more my dog ate it. All as long as you maintain your internet connection, everything is smooth and easy.
Yeah.
So
one of your students just messaged in and didn't say when they were a student, but they said that when they were a student, that they had they were surprised. I should read exactly how it's worded, but they were surprised that pleasantly surprised. I should put that word in there as it's written. Pleasantly surprised at the extent the library offerings. A lot of virtual, even though the physical library had been extended, and the virtual sort of availability. Is that the case? I mean, sometimes we don't appreciate how accessible learning can be beyond the physical sort of class, as you mentioned, but the physical library and resources.
Absolutely. One of the things that we build into our system is we want to make sure that our students, who are, as they're writing papers, they're writing academic papers, which means we're also citing works from scholars and great persons who've had great thoughts before us. And so we wanted to provide them with an ample resource, not just the books that they were able to pick off a shelf, but through our EBSCO database that has papers from all over the world, through our LIRN system and our virtual librarian. All of these things come together to provide students access to great thought, to wonderful thought, to peer-reviewed journals and articles, so that we can expand our own thinking and realize that even though we're on this small island, there's a vast world out there where persons have thought about many of the things that we're thinking about now, and we can stand on their shoulders and benefit from what they've looked at before, so that we too can come up with great solutions, just like our leaders did, because we were able to see what was going on during COVID-19, we had China, we had what was going on in the States, we had what was going on around the world, and we're able to look and go, you know what? Let us make some quick decisions. Let's make some smart decisions. Let's make some proactive decisions so that we can save lives in the Cayman Islands. So I just wanted to say how I appreciate the move of the government, the active movements of the government, the forward-thinking movements of the government to help protect lives in the Cayman Islands. And so that now is transitioning to persons seeing the same thing, seeing our leaders doing that and going, you know what? How can I protect myself? How can I preserve myself? How can I help my young children? So if something like this happens again, I can make sure that I can maintain my source of income. I can make sure that I can maintain my quality of life. I can maintain that I can ensure that I can continue to provide for my mother, my father, my children, so that they can continue to enjoy some of the things that we enjoy, even as we navigate out of this COVID-19 crisis.
That's it. That navigation going forward, as you shared, for the individual as well as for the government.
Yes.
What we do now going forward to protect ourselves, just similar current future, but also in the short to medium term, as an individual, as a company, but specifically as a government. I think the true test of the leadership is what are we going to do and how are we going to do it. It's interesting if you were to do a quick analysis of what seems like a very coordinated global response, from the reports from Kenya to anything else across any of the other countries in the globe. Their governments seem to have adopted almost verbatim the same approach. The limitations on gatherings for political or social purposes is the same. It may be 10 people or maybe no more than 100 people. Churches, everything. And I just want to say that because I think this is where education comes in for us as a people to access continued education, to look at, maybe retooling. Perhaps more people will get into public administration or public health. Specifically, those in the sciences may look at how do you cope with pandemics, or even emerging. What was it that one of our politicians in our they call it the parliament, but it's still a legislative assembly. In my mind, he said, we're waiting on getting to that point where we're creating a totalitarian regime, and probably not just here, globally. So, education can be empowering, it can be enlightening, it could be that thing that invigorates people to the perspective where they act in a civilized way to ensure that there's a healthy democracy. I guess education comes down strictly.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that's what we're thinking. That's what we're thinking about when we're thinking about education. We have access to a whole lot of information out there. We know that we have negative information. We have a whole, a bunch of stuff that is out there that will lead us into the wrong direction. So being able to cipher through all that information to find the right information that is helpful to the entire society is that thing that we focus on at ICCI. So in our classes, we focus on critical thinking. How do you review information to make sure that it is accurate, to make sure that it stands up to the test of truth, to make sure that it is helpful to the person around, and not just get caught up in rumors and all that other stuff that may lead us astray. So we're able to see, okay, the government is doing these things. Are the things that the government is doing helpful to us as a whole, as a nation? Because we still have to keep the government in check. That's our job as the electorate. We still have to make sure that the government is acting on behalf of the people and not going, like you said, into a totalitarian regime or a dictatorship where they just go, hey, do this and it's done. So we want an educated workforce who can think, who can analyze, who can look at information, and then when you go out to the polls, you're voting, not just voting based on what was said by your neighbor or what you saw on TV, but based on the information that you've consumed, reviewed, and now you're able to articulate with passion.
And that's the way I think they come back to that whole idea of learning through engagement, as I call it, through interaction. Now, for some of us, it's physical interaction. You're in a classroom. Others, it's perhaps because of just physically unable to, maybe because of the time, having the virtual class. If that's the phrase I use, that's not best suited. Please guide me as an educator. But I set out to share that through that interaction, we become, more adept at being, critical thinkers and consumers and distillers of information, because you get to feed off the sentiments that are being shared by, your other members in the class, whether it's from the class, by a presenter, or whether it's, someone seated next to you, or whether it's in the virtual realm, and then as you read. But then from that perspective, though, Mr. Lynch, when we look at critical thinking, for some strange reason, and I go back to some stuff I was reading in the last couple of days again, how to rethink of some of this information. I looked at a few papers published earlier by some individuals who were sharing that, wait a minute, some of this stuff doesn't look exactly right. The quote unquote the science isn't sort of measuring up, and there isn't this substantive thing for us to go on. Those critical thinkers and questioners and are being considered to be conspiracy theorists. And I think, wow. Now, I'll maybe leave that on the table and save you response, unless you quickly want to jump in, but we have a final break to take, so I don't stay too far on the south side of Missouza.
Just to quickly add to that, once upon a time we thought the world was flat, and people who thought the world was round were considered to be conspiracy theorists. And so you will have people who will have to buck against what is the common norm, so that we can have movement, so that we can have progress. And so we don't necessarily have all the truth that is here today. Tomorrow we're going to learn new things, we're going to explore, and so we're going to grow. And our ability to consume that information, to explore and not just be closed-minded and go, this is what our grandparents have always done, this is what it is, and just leave it at that. That's where we're inviting persons to come and expand, to think, to have conversations, and not be afraid to have debates, so that we can be foils for each other and to just react to each other's ideas and just grow from the experience.
There you go, man. Well, when you come back, please use the remaining time to invite us to share more and to learn more about what's happening with the ICCI. To our listeners, please join us after the break.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on ensuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Oh gosh.
Don't let the stress of taking care of loved ones get you down.
Home care, now made easier with K-Man Medical Supplies. 100% Caymanian owned. K-Man Medical Supplies now stocks a wide range of home care supplies. Hospital beds, all types of wheelchairs, including beach access wheelchairs, lifts, commodes, shower chairs, walkers, Curad brand orthopedic supplies. Free blood glucose monitors with the purchase of 1 pack of test strips, blue underpads, and a whole lot more.
Need home care convenience? Drop by K-Man Medical Supplies at 93 Smith Road, Windward Center, or call 949-6211. Free delivery.
We know there has been a lot of changes, and K-Man Medical Supplies is here for the community. From gloves and sanitizers to mandatory supplies, including masks. Hours are now Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. till noon. Free delivery island-wide.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Honored to be able to speak to Robert Lynch and ICCI and to share all the good things that happen. So, Mr. Lynch, I get excited every time I get a chance to learn more. Yesterday's discussion with folks from the HSAs, laboratories, from the forensic analysis, testing, and you get to learn. You get to be challenged beyond, your own sort of comfort zone. Today, equally, what you're sharing gives us hope that we can learn more. We can expand our horizons, and it's not just the profit motive that drives us, it's the intrinsic value of the knowledge itself.
Absolutely. So we recognize that some persons, they will want to get an education because you want a raise, you want a promotion, or you want a new career, and that's okay. We provide access to education so that we can facilitate that. But we also encourage critical thinking. We also encourage the expansion of the mind so persons can become better citizens, better representatives of the country, so that we can all as a country explore ideas to not just make money, but also for us to grow as a community. One of the things that every student has to do before they graduate from ICCI is they have to go through our local seminar, which means they get to learn about what the Cayman Islands, they get to learn about the history, the government, and the history, the government of the islands is run, as well as they have to go through community service. So during that seminar, they have to be able to do something that gives back to the community in the Cayman Islands. So those two things, we want to make sure that persons know a little bit more about the community that you live in, and they're able to give back to the community that we're living in. One of the things that we're launching this summer as an expansion to that was we want, as students give back, we wanted to give back to them. So we recognize that some persons may have lost their jobs. They may have, as I mentioned before, they might be in a difficult financial situation. So through our partnership with Resilience Cayman, they're able to volunteer this summer, work with a particular company, and during that time when you're working, you're also building credit that will go towards, or building up some resources that will contribute towards you being able to complete a course at ICCI. So the more you volunteer, the more courses, which means you can literally go to school without any money at all. You volunteer, the money comes to ICCI, you take your classes, you volunteer, so the more you give, the more you receive. And that's something that we just wanted to, we really appreciate being able to partner with John Gupta from Resilience Cayman to provide to our students or anyone who's interested in pursuing a degree. Come by and you're able to access that education.
That's the thing, when we look increasingly at being able to make those partnerships across the many divides, and to give students in particular, irrespective of where they are in their education, to give them that opportunity to see, one, their academic sort of theoretical classroom stuff in action, but two, to appreciate that there's more to life than maybe just a paycheck or maybe just working for some reward. It's an amazing thing that you probably won't experience later on in life. Life experiences kind of come back to you and gives you that perspective. But many places don't have that.
Wow, absolutely. Some of my fondest times are from my time in college, where I was able to. You don't remember the classes, but you remembered who you were in class with, those relationships that you built, those persons that you're able to debate with, to explore with, to have challenges with. And so I also get a chance to be in the classroom, in addition to being admissions and marketing. I get a chance to be in the classroom, and that's one of the things I try to bring into the classroom. The greatest resource in the classroom is not me. It's not the textbook. It is the interactions that students are able to have with each other. Even as they go through a public speaking class, persons realize that at the beginning of class, they're all struggling with the same thing. They're all deathly afraid of speaking in public. But by the time they get to the end of the class, because of the interactions that they've been able to have, because of the support that they've been able to find in their classmates, because of how they lift each other up, they offer feedback because it's about growth, but in a way that allows their students to not feel attacked, but to feel supported and to feel encouraged. And at the end of the term, I'm just so awed at students who might have at the beginning of the term been unable to put a sentence together, but at the end of the term they're just sharing and pouring themselves. And I had a young man this term who at the beginning of the term, he was to give his impromptu speech and he froze. For his final presentation, he was doing a magic show. He had the students captivated. He was just doing such an awesome job that I was thoroughly impressed with, not just the work that we were able to do in class, but the commitment that he put in. Because the growth happens not because of what the teacher does, but because of the effort that a student puts in, so that they can reap the benefits of what is going on in the classroom.
Yeah, and I think something that you've shared that not only directly, but we've sort of referred to it a number of times, is that the opportunities that are here, whether it's internship, whether it's volunteering, whether it's something else that transcends beyond the class, that is absolutely beneficial. It's not the same thing to the same extent that is available elsewhere. We believe, sadly, that just because you're from another jurisdiction with tens of millions of people, for instance, that you have these opportunities. They're probably there, but they're not as accessible. They're not as easy to know about or to even, get a hold of. We have a lot of those here, but for whatever reason, we allow them to be downplayed and to be devalued. And I think, as you were listening, I was quickly reading through the comment from one of your former students, you know, and I talked about, you know, we need to look at these things and promote them more.
Yes.
Because without reading the whole thing, give the context, I think that many of us appreciate that we have them here. We just don't see how important they are. So.
And that's why I appreciate you for providing us with this platform to share, because we're trying to create a unique experience at ICCI. We're trying to create that experience where persons come to get the education, but it's not the same education that you go somewhere else to get, that you fly overseas to get. It's something unique that helps you to appreciate and understand the Cayman Islands as you grow in the Cayman Islands. It's also the international model where even though you're having that local education here, we're able to connect you with international faculty. We're able to connect you with our international seminars that travel around the world. Mostly we're in the States, but we get to visit places like New York, to visit the New York Stock Exchange. We get to visit Atlanta, where we can check out the entrepreneurship scene. We get to visit the Kennedy Space Center. And so we're providing students with that experience so they can recognize that not just through our library, but through their physical interaction, they're able to learn that, hey, this is a huge world. So we welcome students to come. Our next term starts on September 28th. We're just starting up the summer term right now. This is our week 2 of the summer term. Next term starts on September 8th. And so if someone is interested to take this challenge with us so that we can help them to grow, whether it be the GED program, the associate's program, the bachelor's program, or the master's program, they can call us at 947-1100, again, 947-1100, or email info@icci.edu.ky, and we can provide them that unique, we can maybe design a unique program that helps them to access their talent, to grow themselves, and find what their purpose and passion is in life.
But keep us posted how we can help, and you know, hopefully as a people we start to appreciate there's great value in education, you know, beyond the classroom, beyond the paycheck. As you shared, you know, the continued contribution to having an engaged and uplifting society. Always a pleasure, Mr. Lynch. We'll talk some more, maybe one day a casual discussion about technology and its impact on society. Who knows?
I would love to take you up on that. Awesome.
All right, man. All the best to you. Have a great week.
Thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thank you. Robert Lynch over at ICCI. Now, when we come back, Dr. Shari Smith, the manager of the Scholarship Secretariat, will be your guest. Get an update on the government scholarships. Another remarkable lady, truly epitomizing that commitment to education, continuing on a long journey of her own, if she doesn't mind me sharing, so that we can encourage others that, you know, you can pursue and persevere, and one day you'll see, you know, the payment. Well, with that, we'll pause and take a break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
There's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. With the new phase of Level 2 minimal suppression, the Health Services Authority reopens its elective surgeries and outpatient care. COVID-19 screenings will be required for all patients being admitted for elective procedures, including elective C-sections, 3 business days prior to their procedure, and will be directed to the designated screening area. HSA officials say additional measures are in place to ensure patient safety. In international news, 2 elite U.S. universities are suing immigration services over a decision to withdraw visas from foreign students whose courses move fully online. Harvard and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology filed the lawsuit against Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Harvard President Lawrence Bacow said the visa move's cruelty is surpassed only by its recklessness. Australia's second largest city has begun a second lockdown in response to a spike in new coronavirus infections. 5 million Melbourne residents will be barred from leaving home for 6 weeks, except for essential reasons. The lockdown for Melbourne was announced on Tuesday after the state saw 191 new infections, its highest daily number since the pandemic began. Kanye West has given the world a glimpse of what President Kanye would be like. The rapper said he would model his White House operation on Wakanda, the fictional kingdom from Black Panther. West said he would decide in the next 30 days whether to definitely stand in November's presidential election. But he said he was serious about the plan, saying, quote, "Like anything I've ever done in my life, I'm doing to win." Those are your latest headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
We are here for you. Whether you are in extreme financial need, have lost your job, have been directly or indirectly affected by the pandemic, we are here. The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan is here to assist through the Cayman Islands Government Emergency Withdrawal Program. To withdraw, visit chamberpension.ky and complete the online application form by filling in your personal details, the amount you wish to withdraw, and upload a notarized government ID such as your passport or driver's license. For information as it happens, visit chamberpension.ky or follow our social media pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We thank you for your patience as we address the high volume of email and phone queries. The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. You can count on us.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane. Debris includes roofing materials, tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles and must not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. It's another wonderful day, not just because it's a Wednesday, but we get a chance to focus on education and to encourage, uplift, enlighten, inform, and hopefully empower all of us to move forward with our educational endeavors. I'm very honored to welcome, I would say to our studio, albeit virtually, remotely, Dr. Shari Smith from the Scholarships Secretariat. Good afternoon, Dr. Shari. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Dwayne. I am doing fine, thank you.
All right. Well, I was just thinking as I was waiting to I shared publicly. I usually don't talk out of school, but I did a lot of talking in school. I was just thinking, what a wonderful day. Susan was saying it was raining. Soldiers tend to run in the rain. If I could take my bucket, find the soldiers, I could go fishing. Now that we've been released, as they said, all on now parole, shankled as it were anymore. So I'm gonna go fishing. That's what I'm gonna do.
Sounds like a good plan.
The best players I can call and check, or they all up painting the town? I wonder what they're doing. Let me know.
Probably painting the town.
Well, with that, I'm glad that you allow me to at least entertain my own self only for a second, to put the mind in perspective. The chance earlier to focus on education continues with you, and to see our young minds being nurtured and being, in this time, challenged to an extent to appreciate that, the steps of man is in order sometimes, but we forget that it's the Lord who directs our paths, So this too shall pass, hopefully and prayerfully.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Well, we got much to get to, and I'm always mindful that you, so engaging as you are, and could easily fill up, volumes and volumes of text, but they got work to do. So I must be mindful of that time, right?
No. Yes, things are quite even more chaotic, I think, these days with all that is going on. It's definitely not a usual scholarship year, if I can say that. So we have a ever-changing landscape, it seems, on a daily basis. But we're getting through it. We're definitely getting through it.
Yeah, man. I think it's where, and I'm not reading from a script. Hopefully, like many or not all, try to think before we talk. But equally, hopefully, if we ever say anything where we're thinking out loud, that it is taken constructively and never, and forever held against us in perpetuity. But we know that both things happen. We talk without thinking. Whether we say anything, sometimes people will use it against us, but so be it. But I say that to share that here we are in a time that we hear political pundits talk about it being unprecedented, yet we know it isn't. Um, it's just new for us. And if we were to come together, respect each other's perspective and pressures, we can make this, that much more of a successful outcome. And with our students, I'm grateful to you and your team for the Honorable Education Minister's, public championing of our students and the like. And as she said, our students, because in a sense, as Minister of Education, she says they're all, to be educated. So they're her students as a former educator herself. So with that now, Dr. Shari, if I could ask, I mean, we've seen a lot of things happening, not just within our own sort of borders, but the restrictions on many people, students in particular, by jurisdictions elsewhere, that may impede, their continued education for the short term at the very least.
Yeah, that's been the hot topic for the past 24 hours, I think. I think, last week, actually, I mean, just to kind of bring you up to speed on what's been happening with scholarships and bring the public up to speed. Last week, we actually ended up having holding a few webinars with our students, specifically our returning students and our new students. So we know that we've been contacted by several students who may not have gotten the invite. Our post-grad new applicants, we're going to do a separate webinar with them. And those who should have been finishing this spring or summer would not have gotten that invite. But because, it was a bit last minute, but we were really happy with the number of persons that were able to join, that we will probably have a few more sessions next week. Once we can get hopefully some final direction on some of the things that are changing, especially that's been going on in the last kind of 24 hours. But basically we held our meetings with our returning to kind of update them in regards to what the requirements are going to be in terms of their submissions for their fall disbursement. And we also talked about some of the changes in regards to their programs and possible options for their programs in September. For our new students, we spoke to the students who have been given a conditional approval. And I just kind of remind persons that the conditional approval is not final. We obviously still need final grades and various documents to ensure that they have met the full criteria, and then they will be awarded the full scholarship. So some persons have received those emails already and have started to submit their documents, and then some should be getting their emails this week. So it's still an ongoing process. So we are trying our best to get those out. Education Council is reviewing the documentations and stuff that we have been providing them. And so as soon as we have answers, we will get that feedback back to the applicant.
And this is for the new students, the new applicants, right?
Exactly, for those people who have just applied. Now, I think I guess we kind of divide things into regions. For our UK students, I think the key thing for them to know is in terms of the travel, they have to book their travel through the governor's office. And if they haven't already registered online, then they do need to email the governor's office directly and with the information. And we will be sending that out later today, again, on the slides that we shared last week. I'm trying to pull up that email, so I'll get that to you as well. And I think the dates that we had for the UK Airbridge flight are the July 31st and August the 28th are currently the two dates that have been set. I've been getting a lot of questions in regards to, are there going to be other flights? And I can say that one thing we don't do is organize the flight. I'm glad that's not our responsibility. But I suspect that a lot of the decisions are also pending on the decision in regards to the reopening of our border, which, currently the tentative date is around September. So I would suspect that once we start to see decisions made on that, then we may hear more about additional flights to the UK. But right now, the two flights that have been set are July 31st and August the 28th. The email that, if you have not heard from the governor's office and you did register online, you need to email ukstudenttravel@gov.ky. And that's ukstudenttravel, all one word, at gov.ky.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, so I was going to ask, with respect to UK students, we be guided by you, we gather that their start dates for their universities tend to be late September or October even. I'm gathering from some students.
Right.
If your flight is in August sometime, again, there's probably stuff to be done, but one or two students, literally one or two students, have said if they go July and they go August, that's a lot of time between, when they start. How does that work? Again,
right.
I don't know much about it. I didn't ask, but maybe share with us.
Right. Well, so remember that it's not just students who are attending university in terms of those who are on government scholarship going to university, but we also have other students who may be going, self-funding, going to university. We have students who are going to boarding schools, high schools, and so forth, as well as parents who would be accompanying their children, for those flights. So I am assuming that basically, based on the arrangements that the governor's office makes with the UK is when those flight dates can be sorted. There are some schools that are starting sooner, and so ensuring that persons are there and ready and prepared are, something that they may need to look at. Although the UK has made the press release that persons traveling from the British territories will not be required to quarantine. There are still some institutions that may require their students to quarantine. So you need to make sure that that arrangement is also, their flights and stuff allows for those kind of arrangements as well. So I think obviously the August 28th, his flight is a lot closer to the usual start date. But yeah, it is a bit of time. So again, it's not something that we necessarily can control in regards
See, I
to
want to
dates
joke and
and
say, tell the
time.
premier behave, you know. But I won't do
Pardon?
that. I say, I want to joke and say, tell the premier to behave, but I won't do that. I have a friend who's named the dog, you know, the premier, so she's the most beautiful. Man. No, his bark is worse than his bite. Yeah. No, but this is where I think the logistics of the educational coordinating from the flights, you know, it's a partnership of all of us, and I think the government is committed to education.
Right. And then, like I said, I mean, I think the students who are traveling to the U.S. and Canada and other jurisdictions need to be registering with traveltime.gov.ky. And, you know, those are the two entities that are kind of compiling those lists. And I'm sure that they will, on the information that you're providing to them, are the dates that you would like to travel. And so I'm sure that if they see they have, you know, quite a few students who are looking at traveling in September, then if our borders aren't open, then looking at arrangements. You know, I know that both the governor and premier and the ministers and chief officers are quite aware that our students would like to be returning to school and need to be returning to school, and so they're going to, you know, to definitely do their best in terms of making sure that happens. I don't have any doubt about that, you know. But like I said, we are dealing with a landscape that is continually moving, and so it's sometimes very difficult to put things firmly down if we don't know, you know, what comes next.
This, as you shared, you know, it's not just our borders; it's the other countries as well. If I could ask then, just for clarity, why do we know why we have two entities? We have the governor's office coordinating the travel to the UK for students, and then for students, the travel is being coordinated through travel time. For the other jurisdictions like Canada, for instance, I mean, they're all students going back to university. Why not just one entity?
I don't know the answer to that. I think you would have to ask those entities. I would venture to say that, you know, the governor's office has been the point of contact in regards to, you know, the air bridges and so forth from the start. Obviously, they have a direct link in regards to the UK. We have our UK office, and Mr. Andre over there has been very, very instrumental in making the arrangements and support for our students as well, not just those on scholarship, but, you know, those who are going to boarding schools and stuff as well. So I think it's just a matter of dividing up the duties and making sure that everybody's covered, right?
Yeah.
So I think the other hot topic, which we briefly mentioned, is the whole issue of the students going to the U.S. So it's a few weeks ago, maybe, we had the announcement that there was, I guess, basically the suspension of the issuing of student visas by the U.S. President and immigration, which definitely has impacted those students who are hoping to go off to school for the first time in September. I think when we saw that, we anticipated that there was likely going to be other restrictions following. And so when we spoke with our students last week, you know, we encouraged them to think of, to have a wider discussion with their families in regards to possible options that are available to them this year. and consider them in terms of, because of the various restrictions that we are currently starting to see coming up. Part of that was having conversations with their universities in terms of seeing if they can take courses online. So instead of possibly traveling overseas right away to start their school, if the possible option to start online was something that they could opt for. We weren't sure whether that's going to be an option. There was concern in regards to the whole student visa status and so forth. But unless you have the conversation, then you don't know what what the response is going to be. So we encourage them to talk with their universities in terms of the options available to them, especially when they may have been having concerns in terms of traveling overseas and the current rising of the COVID numbers, especially in the U.S., right? There's also the concern of, the availability of flights if borders are closed or not closed. And so parents are going with their children. When do they get to come back? Or if students start school and there's a second wave, which I think we're probably seeing, and there'll probably be a third, they won't be able to just jump on the next flight and get back, may not be able to jump on the next flight and get back home, or family get to them and stuff. So all the different scenarios we encourage them to think about. We also presented them with the option of deferring their start. Again, a lot has gone on in the past couple of months. It has been, very strenuous. There's still a lot of uncertainty that's out there. And so families and students may want to consider whether do we defer or start in September till January and see how things are at that point, and then start in January. Again, a discussion to have together as a family unit, but also with their university, because they would then need to confirm with their university that they have basically approval to defer their start date to later. And once they provided us with that and they had been awarded the scholarship, then we would just, basically their scholarship would be placed on hold, right? We want students to go off to university and be successful. Going to school in a different country, regardless of how often you've visited, it's a whole nother experience. There are the stressors that usually come along with it anyway under normal circumstances, adapting to the culture, being more independent, being away from your family and so forth. When you add this whole extra stress of COVID, it creates a whole nother layer. And that can be very overwhelming for students. So we want them to be successful. And so we also want them to make smart choices in regards to what they're going to do. I said to them last week, the one thing you can't replace is your health. And so if you have a medical condition or you're anxious or concerned in regards to how you could possibly be impacted by COVID, talk with your family and figure out what's best for you, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you may be risking your health and end up having to stop going to school, or you get really sick really well, or just put off until things are a better controlled. I mean, I think we're going to be dealing with COVID for quite a long time, unfortunately. But I think and hope that we will be better in terms of the management of the spikes in infection and illnesses. And I think when we get to that point, that we will see that, things will hopefully get a little less chaotic. Yes, it was yesterday or day before, we then had the additional announcement from the U.S. in regards to the restriction that international students whose university programs have gone fully online are not going to be allowed to stay in the U.S. We have had some indication that some schools have gone fully online, and we have some feedback that some schools have been doing who are going to do kind of a hybrid, so half online, half on campus. In terms of our students, I think one of the conversations we also had with them last week was that if their program was going fully online, to again have that discussion in regards to what is the most financially smart decision to make in terms of travel and where you're going to be. If your school is basically closed campus, your program is fully online, is it financially smart to go overseas, incur additional expenses when you could actually be here in Cayman, still completing your studies, but maybe not adding up those expenses that you may occur if you're overseas? Obviously, the U.S. decision has kind of helped direct some of that discussion. So those students whose programs are fully online and who are either still in the U.S. or who are planning to return now have to be having conversations with their schools in regards to, okay, my visa may not necessarily be acknowledged because immigration will be looking for verification on their I-20 form to state that the program is a hybrid and that the student is enrolled in that. So there will be some examination of documents when you enter the country. Go ahead.
Sorry, in the UK, just quite quick to sort of compare it to the US. In the UK, do we know yet whether the classes will be online, in person, or some sort of hybrid? Just generally speaking, do we know what for university students, not the boarding students, for our university students? Do we know what that's going to be?
We have, not all universities have made their final decision yet, but we have seen schools indicating that they will be reopening their campuses and going back to face-to-face classes. We have some programs who are going to do both options. So I think we're still in that decision-making phase. But I would say, majority of them seem to be more leaning towards opening back up. There are some which were in areas that were pretty hard hit by COVID who went online over the summer, and they have indicated possibly continuing to be online for the rest of the year. So again, we're seeing basically the same thing in all the jurisdictions. It really depends on how well the university feels that they can handle whatever they will need to handle in terms of the number of students that they have and need to manage, and especially with the social distancing and so forth. Obviously, if you're a smaller university, it may be a bit easier to navigate, 2,500 students versus a university that has 10,000 students.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Sharma, Susan reminded us of the call and we have a break as well. So let's just take the quick break. When we come back, we'll invite the caller to share with us, and then we want to engage you further with some of the information. So, all right, perfect. So listeners, join us after the break.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Have you heard the news? Get excited! King Sports Center is reopening on Saturday, July 4th for bowling and skating, Monday, July 6th for the Powerhouse Gym, and July 19th for sports programs. King Sports Center offers a complete health and recreational environment for the only sports and recreational facility of its kind in the Cayman Islands. A full list of all safety precautions is listed at www.kingsportscenter.com. For more information, call 946-5464. Email kings@candw.ky. King Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic, your life connected. Here is a special public service announcement from the Justice of the Peace Association. JP services for the public in the Government Administration Building will resume on Wednesday, July 8th. Services will be provided on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to noon in a designated space adjacent to the reception area in GAB. Please look for the designated signage and directions, and also remember to have all documents and identification needed for your transactions. Every precautionary measure has been taken to ensure the public's safety, and members of the public should adhere to the rules and regulations. Please be aware of the following. The kiosk has been fitted with a plexiglass partition. Hand sanitizer will be available. No one can enter the GAB without a mask. Sanitization of the area will be carried out between clients. You must practice social distancing while waiting in line for service. The Justice of the Peace Association, serving the community with humility and integrity.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us, and very grateful to Dr. Shari Smith for being a guest, the manager, the scholarship secretariat, as we take us through some of the changing dynamics. Dr. Shari, again, I'm very appreciative. We do have a caller online as we go to our phones. Good afternoon. Welcome, and thank you for calling.
Hello, good afternoon, Dwayne. Good afternoon, Dr. Sherry. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to hear from
Calling on about the scholarship. I don't know if this one would be in your bracket, or I just looking some advice on what we need to do. I have my son who is doing medicine. He's in the U.S. now. He did part of the U.S. and part of the U.K. And he did part of St. Matthews here in Cayman. Okay. We want to find out. He has finished his medical degree. Now he had got down to the area where he is to do his final exam to be qualified for to get certificate as for his doctor. He was on a government scholarship up until March. We want to know, where do we go from that? What do we do? What do we do now? Now that what happened, the school that they're doing has put off their exam until sometime next year due to COVID-19. And he is over there now, running up a lot of expense and stuff. I mean, we rent and stuff like that. You can't do no better than what he's doing at the time. So we want to know what becomes to students like that, or where do we have to turn to, for some form of help. Or so I don't know if you guys are in that bracket or not. Because right now, I mean, it is getting very frustrating for him and and not only him, but we got about 8 Caymanian students that have went off to the U.S. to do medicine that are now waiting on their final exam, or have actually taken their last test and waiting to come home. We were informed, through my friend, was informed by the hospital after doing an interview, was informed that they're not now taking no doctors only from the University of Essex. What's going to happen to those children that government has just given a scholarship to go off to? Now, we don't know where we stand.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I'll hang up and listen to her if she needs or do she need me to stay on.
No,
Okay.
I think I've gotten the question, so.
Perhaps it's something you can review and then maybe get back specifically because as she's shared, it's probably not within your remit just yet, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of the student and, still needing to take his exams, I mean, we have several students in that situation. What we have been advising them is to, try to dialogue as best as they can with the university to see if they can get an estimate of the time, and then determine whether they can return home and then hopefully get back. I think the flights to right now at our point of, embarkation or disembarkation is Miami right now, and then they go from Miami to whichever state they need to go. But it is a very tricky situation. The other thing, obviously, with the whole throwing in the issue in regards to the visa status is also something that they need to consider. So I would highly advise them to speak with their school to see if they can get a confirmation in regards to when they're looking at those exams being, and to in regards to possibly speaking to an international advisor to find out what would be the best course of action for them in terms of travel or remaining, based on the current immigration restrictions and regulations. What we don't want happening is our students remaining in the U.S. and possibly it affecting negatively their visa status, or obviously leaving and not being able to get back. So like I said, it's a constantly changing landscape. I do not have a quick answer. We just have to kind of work with the information that our schools are that our students, universities are providing to them. But we also want to consult with their international student office to make sure that whichever decision they make will be, in their best interest, and not put them in a situation where they could potentially, impact their visa status. So that would be my response to the first set of questions. In terms of hiring of doctors, definitely, so not necessarily what we have. We deal with that necessarily directly, but it is a conversation that we're continually having in regards to with the various entities of government. We have hundreds of students who are off studying, and therefore, we need to make sure that there's opportunity for them when they are returning. I think the other thing would be if he's applied to this hospital, I guess, and making sure that, and not just him, the student in particular, but what we are ensuring with all of our clinical students, that prior to engaging in studies overseas, they need to make sure that their program is going to meet the licensure requirements for here in Cayman. And so making sure you also communicate with the entities that you would potentially be seeking employment, that you're going to be meeting the requirements that they have. But I'm sure we're going to have several numbers of students who are going to be seeking internship and so forth. In that regards, we have, especially those who are in the medical and the clinical field studies, we have seen numerous number of students who have had their internship and practicums placed on hold because of the COVID situation. And it's just, again, something that we're going to be working through day by day, But essentially, in terms of if you're not going to classes and your program is basically on hold, then I would encourage you to, look at options of returning home rather than staying overseas and incurring additional costs.
Mhm. I hope that helps somewhat, and I think the Health Practice Commission and maybe even a few of the Caymanian physicians may be able to guide with respect to, internships or residency, or, that sort of clinical practical experience.
Yeah. And I know even like in the, it's not just here in Cayman. I think we're seeing it worldwide. I know in the UK, the licensing boards have kind of had to adjust their, their requirement because of COVID and all the precautions that need to be put in place. And they have basically indicated that for a lot of the clinical programs that are very hands-on, that they are now trying to figure out how are we going to continue doing these programs, because students are not going to be allowed to be in the room with the doctor and the patient. So at least not in the immediate interim, right? So how do those programs ensure that students are being trained, still getting the training that they need, but making sure that we're also abiding by the health and safety requirements as well. So I think continued conversation at all levels is what is definitely going on.
I just want to say it is changing, and to that caller, she raises, points that would impact other students as well. Could we maybe revisit the notion of immigration controls, student visas, and the like? In the U.S., as you said, we've even in the last 24 hours, a lot of things have changed according to media accounts. In the U.S., with respect to the issuing and non-issuing of student visas, is that, to your knowledge, only applicable to students for new visas? So if a student now has a current visa, student visa, is that still valid from what information you've received, or to what information do you have?
From what I've seen that's been posted on the immigration website, if a student currently has a student visa, what their visa will still be valid, but what they will need to do is they will need to ensure that they have documentation from their university. On the website, it specifically says their I-20, which is the form that as a student you travel. That's basically like your passport in and out of the country, right? That on their I-20, it needs to state that their program is either full face-to-face or it's face-to-face and online. Now, the restrictions also state that they can only take one online course. So students will need to work with their universities to have those conversations to make sure that if they are being issued I-20, amendment, that it states the information that they're going to need to get back into the country. So returning students whose programs are, fully in class, on campus, in class, or potentially a combo, will and should be able to return to school, pending they make sure they have that supporting documentation from the university to take back with them, so that when they reach that point of entry into the U.S., they're able to provide immigration with that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Shari, we have another little break to take again, but when we come back, could we ask a couple of other substantive questions, including if you are aware of any other jurisdictions to which your students attend university that may have placed similar restrictions as the U.S. in relation to perhaps withdrawing the issuance of student permits or student visas, whatever it is that they're termed in those jurisdictions. And then secondly, could we talk about some of the funding and the continuing funding we spoke earlier, but can we revisit that as well? So, to our listeners, Dr. Shari Smith, the manager of the Scholarships Secretariat, will continue to discuss when we return.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
The Toyota-thon 2020 event is going on now at Vamped Motors. Get our lowest prices of the year on a great selection of our most popular Toyotas with big savings on the new CHR Hybrid, the 7-seater Rush, the adventurous RAV4, the rugged Hilux truck, and more. You can drive home an amazing deal. Save up to $5,000. Take the full discount, get cash back, upgrade your vehicle with your savings. It's all your choice during our huge Toyota-thon sales event going on through July. Don't miss out. Come to Vamped Motors for your new Toyota. Let's go places.
Are you finding that your young child is anxious? Coping with COVID-19 related stress can be harder for children as they have less experience of facing big challenges. Signs that your child may need emotional support can include frequent crying or irritation, toileting accidents or bedwetting, changes in sleeping habits and appetite, frequent arguing or fighting with others, and increased physical ailments such as unexplained illnesses. For free and confidential support, call the Mental Health Helpline weekdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 1-800-534-MIND. That's 1-800-534-6463. Help support survivors of domestic violence by believing them. Being there for them is one of the best things that you can do. Listen and hear what they need. Let them tell their story in their own way. When supporting persons experiencing domestic violence, maintain confidentiality. They have trusted you enough to share their story. Don't share it with others. If children are involved, alert the multi-agency safeguarding hub. Being there for survivors also means staying in touch. Create a code word or emoji, so if you receive or hear that from them, you will call 911. To help them, it's vital to talk to survivors about their options and help them to evaluate each one. And finally, remember that you cannot rescue survivors of domestic violence, but you can support them on their own terms. For additional support, please contact the Emergency Services, the Cayman Islands Crisis Center, the Family Resource Center, the Legal Befrienders Clinic, the Needs Assessment Unit in Grand Cayman or Cayman Brac, the Mental Health Helpline, the Kids Helpline, or the Department of Community Rehabilitation.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. It is a wonderful Wednesday and for some very wet. And if you're out there and it's like a torrential downpour, well, slow down, be very cautious, drive very carefully. Make sure your headlights are on. Makes your vehicle more visible even in the brightest of days. But certainly if it's dark, glooming, stormy, raining, wet, well, put on the lights. It'll make you much more visible to everybody else around you. So drive safe, careful. Very glad for the excellent company of Dr. Shari Smith, the manager over the scholarships secretariat. Dr. Shari, you know, our students, our parents are very encouraged, very engaged. So share with us, you know, thank you for your time, for giving us information. We wanted to ask some other questions, but if there was something that you want to share, we don't want to be remiss and not include you in the discussion. So, anything you want to share before we delve into some other questions?
Um, I think, well, I think, like I said, the whole hot topic is what's happening with the U.S. right now. And we have been communicating with our students, and some of them have already reached out to us in regards to their particular situation. So my advice to them would be to contact your university, make sure that your program is going to meet the requirements set by immigration, so that if you are here and you are returning, that you will be able to enter the U.S. without any issues. And for those who are still overseas and have gone fully online, that they need to, again, speak with their universities, but also, look at what they need to do next, whether it's returning home for the semester or what.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing is, I mean, the idea that we get the guidance and we get the opportunities to study and to travel and the like, but end of the day, it's making sure that we are positioning ourselves to stay on the right side of immigration control, as it were. With respect to that, we were asking about other jurisdictions offhand where studying, maybe if it's at all, available. We know students are offered University of West Indies and there's many campuses, including the Barbados and the Gayville one over there, St. Augustine included. What about beyond the US and Canada and the UK? Where are some of our students studying on government scholarship, tertiary education? Other parts of Europe as well? Or?
Yeah, we have students who are in Europe and in Asia. We have a few in, we have in Canada, obviously the U.S., UK, here in the Caribbean as well. So a bit of a range. We have students. We have some who are far off as Turkey and Hungary, Philippines, I think. I think we have a student in South America, but I think they may have finished now. Okay. So yeah, we find that our students, travel all over the place.
Lots of reasons for that. That's good. We get the education and experience and exposure. Now, with that in mind, we know the U.S. maybe because we're more familiar with the news, maybe it's more accessible for whatever reason. But what they have said with respect to their issuing and suspension of student visas, any of those jurisdictions thus far have done anything similar that we know of as yet?
Not that I know of as yet. Most of the students who are kind of like in our further jurisdictions tend to be studying more of the medicines, and I think most of them are like actually in their practicum year. So they are getting lots of good experience now, obviously with the whole COVID situation. But no, we haven't really seen anything else come in from any of the other jurisdictions, not specific to like student visas. We know that borders have been closed and that has had an impact, but not that I can say. Of course, like I said, it's ever changing. That could be different tomorrow.
Well, yes, ma'am. We realize that, and with that in mind, then just for emphasis, we think we know the answer. We think we've heard it a number of times, but just in case someone's joined us, for students who have everything in place and they're decided to pursue or to continue their studies, so they're going to go back for the second, the third, the fourth year, or they're going to go off for their first year. So they're going to either continue or pursue their studies, but it's going to be online at a university overseas somewhere. I call it semester. So I don't know what's called other places, terms or what have you, but come August, September, October, whenever that starts back. So I'll be as exhaustive as possible. will government, once the scholarship is approved, but the classes are all online, or even if they are hybrid or partially online or on campus, but for safety reasons, they opted to stay in Cayman, but to do it online. And they're able to do that. Universities approved it. Will government still provide the scholarship funding to pay for tuition and all of the related sort of fees for tuition, books, and that like?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to lose their scholarship because they opt to go online and remain in Cayman for the term and taking their classes. As I said previously, we have actually been encouraging students to explore the different options that they have in light of the current situation in the world to make the best decision that's for them. And so that might be whether if it is a possibility for them to take online classes with their university that are a part of their program. Obviously, they would be enrolled, and so they would their tuition costs would be covered. So they would still receive funding for tuition costs if there's books. Interestingly, I think most schools now they do ebooks, so even that seems to be strange these days. Very few textbooks that are actually purchased.
But then they're expensive.
So they would still have access to scholarship funds to, pay for their tuition and their courses and stuff. So again, just letting us know what it is that their school has gone to, what they're planning to do, and then what their intentions are. And then we will work with them the best that we can.
Okay, so as we go into our news break, and thank you for sharing with us, because we got a couple of other questions, including, fees and funding and some of the stuff that we'll share. One of the questions may not be necessarily related to use about health insurance coverage, but we'll broach that with you after the news break, if that's okay.
That's right.
All right, and for our listeners, we're talking education and scholarships, so you can call 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Dr. Shari Smith is our guest, so please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service Community Policing Department will continue their distribution of reusable protective face masks in the coming weeks. Any resident who has not received their reusable protective face mask is encouraged to make direct contact with their local community policing officer. In international news, a Spanish study has cast doubt on the feasibility of herd immunity as a way of tackling the coronavirus pandemic. The study of more than 60,000 people estimates that around just 5% of the Spanish population has developed antibodies. Around 70% to 90% of a population needs to be immune to protect the uninfected. As the world battles the coronavirus pandemic, more and more protective equipment is ending up in the sea. Globally, we are using 129 billion face masks and 65 billion plastic gloves every month, according to some estimates. Divers and observers are spotting more of this discarded waste floating underwater, causing problems for wildlife and washing up on shorelines all over the world. Texas is set to resume executions on Wednesday after a 5-month hiatus due to coronavirus pandemic sweeping the state. Billy Joe Wardlow is to be put to death for the robbery and murder of an 82-year-old man in 1993. On Tuesday, Texas broke its single-day record with over 10,000 new infections. Those are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, radiokman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us, and a special thanks to Dr. Shari Smith, the manager of the Scholarships Secretariat, for helping us to get a better perspective and be appreciative that there are much to consider as our students either venture off into university for their first time or they're returning students. So, Dr. Shari, with that perspective, we're seeing a number of things. And just before the break, we wanted to ask about, medical insurance coverage and with that in mind, perhaps I'll defer to you first, but we know that medicals are important as part of the scholarship thing. But share with us.
Okay, so medicals are required as a part of the scholarship application, and I think this year we actually, moved the medical requirement to the second phase of the application process, which would be once you have received that conditional approval, that you would then be required as part of your final submission documents for the official awarding of the scholarship to complete your medical. And so with things opening back up, and heard today that the hospital is starting to resume their regular operational duties, and so our doctors' clinics, that students who still have their medicals outstanding need to look at going and getting those done. And this is specifically to those who have just applied for scholarship. It's really key that the medicals are done because, and especially in this day, because it can provide information in terms of any underlying condition that a student may have that could potentially place them even at more risk here, with COVID, or just something that they need to be aware of that they may not have even known about. So it's really a key time to do that, to make sure that they have those checks done and make sure that there isn't anything that may be underlying. We're also encouraging students and applicants, to take the COVID test so that they know whether they have been exposed or not, so that they know how to protect themselves if they're going to be traveling overseas and into an environment that they could be placed more at risk, right? I mean, here in Cayman, we have been quite blessed and protected, but we know that the wider world has not been so lucky. So we don't know how our bodies respond in different environments until we get in those environments. So really, as much information as you can gather now to prepare yourself, and then you're able to put a plan in place in the event that you are overseas and you do find yourself getting ill, that what is the plan, where do I go, how do I get help, what information do I pass on to my doctor and stuff. Most universities require students to have a medical done, so it will also serve that purpose as well. In regards to health insurance, in the UK, I think they're usually from what I've seen, most students are covered under the UK health insurance policy once they have their British passport, and I think when they go into the university, they register and they have to make an appointment with a local doctor, but then they get basically a health card to access health care. In other jurisdictions, I'm not really sure how it is in Canada. I want to think that Canada may be possibly similar, but I'm not sure. But in the in the U.S., I know that health insurance is required, and usually that is an additional cost for international students. Usually there is a health insurance policy that the school will subscribe to and advise the student, this is what you need to, you need to purchase this to have coverage. It's usually also a requirement in terms of being a full-time student in that university. You must have health insurance coverage and taking so many credits and stuff. So to meet the criteria for being a full-time student is usually tied into that as well. So usually you'll find that if you have health insurance here, sometimes they may, depending on what your parents have, the university may accept it, but that is something that you would need to explore with the university when you get there, because an international policy may not necessarily be within their acceptance remit or whatever, So again, conversations to have.
Yep, things to consider. As you shared, some universities have I call it a fee as part of the tuition that covers some semblance of health insurance. Now, to what extent that is, we need to discuss that. But I was also wondering to what extent, and again, I'll ask the question whether it's something you can guide us. But we know from what we've had in previous times with discussions relative to health insurance coverage for our children, our students, that as long as they're full-time students, that they're covered. But when they get 18, if there isn't some sort of continued coverage, then they'll fall away from their parents' primary insurance, health insurance coverage. In that instance now, where students are here for whatever reason, maybe they've taken wisely to defer their admission to university. Do we know what, if anything, they should or can do to ensure that their health coverage continues? They've reached 18, they're 19, they're 20, whatever it is, they're not now in full-time in education because of the deferral or what have you. How, to what extent, if any, does that affect their health insurance coverage? Are there those questions and considerations been raised thus far?
I can't say that they've been raised. So I leave. I can always count on Dwayne to come up with a question that's never enough.
Hey, listen, we're smart.
But in terms of health insurance coverage locally, students, I know that most insurance policies will allow coverage, and there's usually an additional cost because, of course, nothing's free, to be added onto or under their parents' coverage while they are in full-time studies. Right. So, in the best case scenario, a parent would have already obtained that coverage so that when the student is here on vacation or here on break, that they have that coverage in the event that they need it. we no longer have the policy or the situation where children are covered for free. I think that is a motion that was the Minister of Health, I think, was trying to put forward, or is trying to put forward and bring back into place where students who are compulsory school age, so those would be the children who are in primary and high school, were covered under the public health provision. But then once they graduated from high school, then they would have to be accessing private or personal health insurance.
That's a whole question. Yeah. But no, Dr. Sherry, I'll only interject to the extent that perhaps if parents haven't as yet, consider that's another thing to look at, so that their children, irrespective of, however old your children are, if you're a parent, my mother always reminds us, still worries about them, so that she'll call them and say, "You ate today?" So you're always a parent once you have a child, right? Maybe have that conversation to ensure that your child now, irrespective of the age, has continued health coverage, especially this time if their studies have been interrupted for a semester or even for an academic year. As we say that,
sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was saying that for parents in particular, now to take this on board as parents, to inquire that the health insurance coverage is still extended to their children, even if their child's education is, being deferred. We know, we gather that once that child is in full-time education, then the child can be covered under the plan. But if then there is a separate sort of health coverage that's required. So the parents now need to kind of make that one other additional phone call now to make sure that they have the requisite coverage to continue to give the child that level of comfort, even if the child is studying online, came on, or has taken off a semester or an academic year.
Yep.
These are the kind of conversations that I think keep us up at night when we're thinking of our children's continuing health and well-being in educational endeavors. With that, though, I can see a number of things happening, as you shared, not just whether it's going to be a question of restrictions on entry into the particular jurisdiction, whether visas and the like going to have certain conditions attached, or whether it's the whole issue of the school's sort of continued coverage or classes being online or some sort of hybrid mechanism. But then there's also the notion of not becoming despondent and having a sense of despair. It's a trying time for all of us, economically as well as socially. So let's not lose hope.
Let's not lose hope, and I would especially say that to our students who are looking forward to going off on September and starting their new journey into independence, and not just the students, because I'm sure the parents as well. We're looking forward to possibly having them out of the house for a little bit.
Hey, that was a secret.
But not to lose hope and be discouraged. There's always bumps in the road, they say, and this too we will get through, and you will get through. And so don't give up. Just continue to make your plans and prepare yourself for when that time is set for you for it being your turn. I'm a firm believer that everything happens when it's supposed to happen. And so
can I one more question at you that may or may not have been asked. In this particular time where perhaps students will be required to study online, maybe for their selected safety concerns, maybe because the jurisdiction has been closed, maybe the school itself has gone online for the next academic year or even the next academic semester. In that instance where the student remains here or off campus taking classes online and has or is able to take the classes that would not constitute being a full-time student, how and to what extent would that impact the scholarship? So, for example, well, would that affect the scholarship? Let me ask it that way first.
Again, we acknowledge that this is an unusual year. I think the key thing is that the student would be meeting the requirements of the university. And so we will, be looking at what is the requirement for the university for them to take, what's the course load that they are being required to take, and work with the student in regards to that. We've seen the council already and minister and cabinet, make some amendments to the usual way things are, policies have been laid out in regards to ensuring that students have access to, education, and acknowledging that this has been an unusual year. It has had impact on our students and the way that they perform. And so, again, taking all of that in light, working with them to make sure that they are going to get the support that they need. But the key thing will be, ensuring that it's what their university also is going to be requiring. I think one of the things I guess I would stress to our students, especially those who may end up having a full online program and remaining at home, that we have seen our government, which has been definitely outstanding and gone to, awesome lengths to ensure the protection of our citizens, as well as ensuring that our citizens can come home. And everything has a cost factor, right? And so government is all one, it's one big bucket that's divided into all these different sections. So we know that there may be some costs that have not been expected. And so, we want students to be, again, financially sensible and conscious of what they may be incurring when they study. And it's not just this year, but it's throughout their entire studies. I mean, it's about learning to live on a budget. It's about being sensible with the funding that you are getting. It's understanding that if your scholarship funding covers your tuition, you're taking full online classes, and it covers your tuition in your books, and really that's all you are required, because when you think about it, when you come home on vacation, you don't get accommodations paid for because you're coming home to stay at home with your parents, right? The scholarship is a partnership between the student and their family and the government and ministry in terms of working together to ensure that the student has access to what they need to pursue their studies. So it's understood that there will be things that will be covered under your scholarship, and that is very clear in the policy document that's outlined in the commitment letter that they signed. And there's things that the other expenses in which, families will have to work together to look at how do we cover. And again, these are very hard times, and we know that some families have lost income. And so again, having those conversations, working with the various entities to make sure that, the support is gained, but also being very conscious that, okay, what is it that I need to really spend money on? Because, if you don't need to spend the money now, it's there when you do need it,
Right. Okay. But we got the final break, and then when we come back, maybe you can remind us of certain things, perhaps, emphasize others. Um, of course, anytime you need to come back, you're more than welcome. But let's pause quickly, take the final break, and then when you come back, Dr. Shari, share with us as you wish. So, listeners, stay tuned.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Mommy, have you been taking your medication? No, I think I forgot to pick it up. Your doctor prescribed it for a reason, so you should be taking it regularly. I know, TD. Thanks for the reminder.
If you are elderly or vulnerable and need your prescription delivered to your home, contact the Health Services Authority Pharmacy at 949-8600. Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky or call 949-8600.
Your Radio Cayman 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit www.caymannational.com for up-to-date information for all your financial needs and follow us on social media.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And thanks very, very much to Dr. Shari Smith for spending an extended time with us this afternoon, understanding her commitment, to education, not just as manager of the scholarship secretariat, but her personal example. Dr. Shari has been inspirational and encouraging for many of us, and it just shows what you can do with the support, the perseverance, but also the attitude and the discipline. So by their fruits we shall know them. It's said. Good stuff, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. With this though, you were sharing this prior to the break that we have to be good stewards, very, very prudent, and the like. We do recognize, as you shared equally, that this is a challenging time for many, and financially as well as physically, socially, and otherwise. But as a students probably chart a water that they don't necessarily have a map to navigate, but even worse, not even a good captain or crew to steer them. Locally, internationally included. Doesn't matter, working together and not losing hope may help us to find that they're not only calmer seas, but at least we're not in the doldrums, right?
Yeah, true. I mean, like I said, I'm just reminding students to, as hard as it is, be patient. We are getting through the applications and trying to make sure that everybody has all the information that they need and getting the feedback as soon as we can to them. Families who may have to submit additional documents, as soon as you can get those, then the sooner we can do the review and get, responses back out as well. And then just to our returning students, making sure that you are in communication with your university. Ask those key questions in regards to what are your options? How do you, what are the plans for the next semester? What's the impact going to be if you decide to defer or, so just having those conversations. I mean, it's all about, being a young adult and problem solving. This is all a part of taking that next, the next chapter of your life. This is what it's about, right? So having the conversations and asking the questions so that you know how to make a better informed decision. And then making sure that you have the supporting documentation to provide to us at the Scholarship Secretariat so that we can also provide the kind of support that you need. I also encourage, students who are going to go overseas, go back to university, or students starting university or who may still be overseas, to make sure that they also take care of themselves, and even students who remain here, to take care of themselves. And when I say take care of themselves, I mean I'm referring to your emotional and mental and physical well-being as well. When we did our survey, when COVID first started, we put out a survey with our overseas students, and quite a few of them indicated feeling overwhelmed and stressed and not necessarily navigating or adapting to the fully online program, as well as they had hoped, missing friends and, all the social independence that they get when they leave home. So, making sure that, if you need to be talking to a counselor or talking to someone about feelings or emotions that you're having, definitely we encourage you to do that. If you're overseas, seek out your student counseling services. If you're here locally, we have lots of options in terms of counseling or just someone to talk to, or even the mental health helpline that's a free call as well. And then we have professionals answering those calls and providing support. Because if you're physically and emotionally and mentally exhausted, then you can't focus on your academics. So it's about being well all around. You have to make sure that all aspects of yourself are being taken care of.
Exactly.
Well,
to share with about, and I recognize the time and certainly your graciousness with your time. We spoke about in closing, we spoke about the returning, the new students. But for returning students, you sent letters out to your new applicants, the new scholarship recipients. For your returning students, when and to what extent will you be communicating with them relative to, receipt of funds or request information, grades, and the like? I mean, what is it that we will say to those students?
So our returning students, we are hoping to get their, their submission packages, I guess you would call them, out in the coming week. And then they can start to submit their submissions and so forth. So, and then we will start to, process things like how we usually process. Obviously, there's a bit more information that is going to be required in terms of documentation on what's happening and so forth. And so we do acknowledge that some schools are still trying to figure out what they're doing. And of course, in light with the recent decisions by the U.S., that may also have some impact in terms of what students are going to be doing as well. But those things should be coming out in, the next couple of days. So they need to make sure that they keep a check on their emails. We did get some emails last week that we had students who have not been receiving our communications. So I asked students who may not have been getting our emails to please write into scholarship@gov.ky and ensure that the email that you are using is what we need to have on file, because usually whatever email you initially gave us is usually what is in the system. Or if you are using your school email and you are not able to access that, then we need to use another one, then providing us with that updated information so we can update the list and making sure that we are getting information out to you.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And of course, any time that you or your team need any, airtime, whether it's a quick phone call, whether it's an extended program, whether it's a series, we're here. Certainly want to be able to use the avenue to inform your students. Any final maybe thoughts you may want to leave with us?
Again, just wishing everybody all the best in their new school term. And, again, stay in communication with us. And if you are hoping to be traveling back to university or school, that make sure that you contact the various entities, whether it's using the travel time website if you're going to the U.S., Canada, or other jurisdictions, and then the governor's email, which is the UK student travel at gov.ky for those students who are going UK, Europe, and Asia. So that's exploregov.ky/travel time for U.S., Canada, and I guess Western jurisdictions. And then UK student travel at gov.ky for the UK, Europe, and Asia students. And remembering that, to give, when you send the email, if you registered previously but have not gotten a call about or email about the flight, I think the end of July, which is the 31st, or the 28th of August yet from the governor's office, that you need to send an email and let them know that you would like to be on that flight, and giving them your key information. So, and of course, if you have any questions, you can always contact us at scholarships@gov.ky. We're still working remotely, but we do have individual in the office on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays as we kind of work with the rest of the government trying to figure out how do we transition back with all the restrictions and stuff. But if you do need to contact us, definitely email. We're answering emails as fast as we can get them.
All right. Well, thank you again, and to you and the entire team, Dr. Thompson included, for sharing with us, and for Honorable Education Minister for being so supportive, and in particular for championing education. Let's see what we can do for our Caymanian students. We'll get there. Not to lose hope, as you shared. All right.
We will, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And hopefully, you can come back and find the soldiers and go fishing. But we'll see. Maybe they're at Sandhurst. We'll see.
All right.
All the best to you. All right.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. To our listeners, the program, if you need to go back to it, it's on YouTube. You can refer to it if you need any other update or information. Just give us a shout. We can share with you. Of course, contact the Scholarship Secretariat if you want more information and then you just further emphasis. Please come back tomorrow for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. We know who our guests are. We know what we're going to be talking about. Well, you want to find out, come tomorrow and you'll be a part of the discussion. I promise you, it's timely, it's topical. Some of you might say, oh, that again. Others you might say, about time. Well, that's tomorrow's show. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.